Welcome to the next marketing era, Marketing's Digital Command Center webcast. Today we'll be discussing how web content management is in the process of expanding to become less about publishing content and more about customer experiences and managing digital journeys across multiple channels. We're fortunate today to have a great panel of speakers. Leading our conversation is Ted Schadler, VP and Principal Analyst from Forrester Research. You might be familiar with Ted from his numerous speaking engagements or his work at Forrester on the Forrester Wave Report for Web Content Management Systems. Martin Kiroff is the VP of Product Marketing and Product Management for the Sitefinity product line from Tellurica Progress Company and is a senior leader of teams that scope and deliver a platform that powers over 11,000 websites across the globe. In addition, we'll be joined by Svetlana Yankova, Product Marketing Manager for the Sitefinity product. Our agenda for today's session will start with Ted, who will be supplying an overview of what he's seeing in the market, customer needs, and how things are evolving. Martin will provide an overview of the vision of the Sitefinity platform and the newest developments. And finally, Svetlana will be showing us exactly how that new technology addresses the challenges that organizations are facing today. We'll be addressing questions at the end of the session, so please use the questions functionality, and we'll address as many as we can as time allows, and then follow up with any that we can answer by email after the session. So please welcome Ted Schadler from Forrester Research. Ted?
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everybody. So I'm here today to really kick us off and talk about the critical role of context in great customer experiences. So I'll break that down for you. So by the end of this, you'll have a pretty good handle on what I mean by context and why it plays such a critical role. I'm going to start just by pointing out that the big change here, one of the big changes, certainly the change that feels the most profound, is mobile. You know, we had many, many years of getting web right, but then along comes mobile devices, and all of a sudden what we did before isn't good enough. And so context is the way out of this thorny thicket that mobile presents. And so The Mobile Mind Shift is a book that Julie Osk and Josh Bernoff and I wrote last year that really tackled the mobile strategy. How do you change your way of thinking about the world to be mobile first and then execute on that? So that's a little bit where I'll be coming from here. So I'll start just by saying that, and you should certainly feel this yourself in your own business, that we live in the age of the customer, very empowered customers. You know, in the old days it was manufacturing scale and then distribution scale, and then in the 90s we had sort of information scale and the ability to control supply chains and whatnot. But now we actually live in an era where the customer has such tremendous choice and such power over information, over pricing, over quality. They can tap into reviews, they can share an experience. That really raises the bar for every single company, B2C and B2B, on becoming customer obsessed. And at Forrester, we call that the age of the customer. So the bar is much, much higher on delivering that great experience. I'm going to bring that to life for you here. One of the surveys we do every year is of business and technology decision makers at very large companies, so enterprises around the world. It's about 1,500 respondents. And we ask them what their priorities are. And in 2014, 74% of global business and technology decision makers said that improving customers' experience is a critical priority or a high priority for us. Not only that, but when we asked them to stack rank their initiatives by importance over the next 12 months, customer experience was 24% of companies ranked it as the most important initiative, ahead of revenue, ahead of cost containment, ahead of product innovation, customer experience as the most important initiative. So that tells you that around the world, decision makers, both in technology and in business, are seeing that we live in the age of the customer. So how do you deliver a great customer experience? Well, you can't just stick it in marketing or in commerce or in service or in product. You have to, it's everybody's problem. When you think about a customer on their life cycle, on their journey from discovery to explore to buy to use to ask and to engage, it has to be a great and consistent and contextual experience along every single step. And so when we went to do the analysis here, we figured we'd better measure it. So at Forrester, we actually also survey consumers. In fact, we survey over 250,000 consumers. In fact, it's more like it's not a million, but it's a very large number of consumers around the world. And one of the things we ask about is their customer experience with brands, about 450 brands. And we measure the quality of that experience. And we break down companies into 4 major buckets. Leaders, the top 25% are leaders in Customer Experience Index. And then laggards, which is the bottom quarter, the bottom 25%, and then folks in the middle. And we actually help companies to assess the customer experience in 4 dimensions. The first dimension is convenience. How convenient is it to work with this company? Can I get what I want in a convenient way? And a lot of what companies do, their products, their services, fall into the convenience bucket. But then we also ask about performance. Is it a performant experience? Do I get it snappily? Do I get a response quickly? Does the website perform? Another thing we ask about is trust. Does somebody trust a company? Do they trust that their personal information is protected, for example? And then lastly, personalization. Am I getting a personal experience from a company? And it's this last one, personalization, that's really at the heart of what we're talking about today. Because to deliver a personal experience, you have to deliver a contextual experience based on what we know, and we'll dive into that. Now, if you need evidence that experience matters, this chart will give it to you. There's a company called Watermark Consulting that has plotted the stock performance of leaders and laggards against the overall S&P 500. And when you look at the difference in stock performance over the last 5 years, it's astounding. The overall S&P has grown 15% over the last 5 years. Customer experience leaders have grown 43%, 3 times as fast in their stock performance. And the laggards have dropped minus 34%. So the gap between laggards and leaders is phenomenal. It's a huge difference in stock performance based on this very simple metric of customer experience. So if you need evidence to go make the case that customer experience matters, this chart should help you do it. Not only that, it's accelerating. Leaders pulled ahead by 20% in 2013 alone. So tremendously powerful data to make the case that customer experience matters. Okay, so what changes in the age of the customer? To be practical, what can we do about it? Well, it does start by understanding how things have changed. And certainly we know that customer expectations have changed. Mobile first and multi-touch point. I'm going to pull out that mobile device everywhere at any time. I can be on the call center, on the phone waiting for your call center, and I can be on my phone. I can be in a customer meeting. I can be using your product. So mobile first, but also multi-touch point. Don't pass me off and forget who I am between devices. And contextual to me and my situation. Make it personal. My expectation is that you will make it personal. Urgency changes. Digital affects all channels. Not just the digital channels, but the offline channels as well, your store or using your product in an offline setting. Mobile devices make that connection. This also forces executives to tune in and care like they never did before. Instead of digital being an appendage to the firm, another channel, digital is core to the firm. You become a digital business. So urgency changes, delivery changes, how you accomplish the result changes. You have to be responsive based on the context. And you have to be consistent across the life cycle. You can't pass a customer off from marketing to sales to service. You need consistency across every one of those steps. And then technology changes. What we call digital experience delivery platforms, the architecture for experience delivery, and we'll talk more about that. And then there are many new stakeholders and budgets, and we'll also show more of that. So there are tremendous changes that really pervade your company and require you to think differently and work differently in the age of the customer. So to make the mobile first point, let's look at this question. I expect companies to have a mobile app, and I'm more likely to return to a website in the future if it's mobile friendly. Now, we survey hundreds of thousands of consumers every year around the world. This is a study that really drills into how people feel about these technologies. And so we ask about expecting to have a mobile app, and Gen Z, Gen Y, 55%. But even younger boomers and older boomers are north of 30%. About a third of these older customers expect companies to have a mobile app. For the mobile web, we have an even more higher important value. 3/4 of younger consumers and almost 50% of younger boomers are more likely to return to a website if it's mobile friendly. So the demand for mobile apps and sites is very strong, it's rising, and it is in fact generational. And 23%, almost 1 in 4, expect their experience to change based on location. And location would be an example of a personalization of contextual. Now, we thought mobile was important enough that we wrote a book about it. This is actually a picture of St. Peter's Square that Michael Sohn took, and this is people waiting for Pope Francis to walk out on the balcony for the first time. People captured this moment mobily. They shared it mobily. They participated in history on their mobile devices. And when the last Pope walked out 8 years prior, there were no lights here. There were no devices capturing and participating in the moments. So in those 8 years, which is not very long, by the way, something had changed. In fact, people had undergone a mobile mind shift. The expectation that I can get what I want in my immediate context with no waiting and my moments of need. That expectation change is a very good example of life in the age of the customer. So what is context? Context is actually a simple idea. It's the sum total of everything we know about a customer based on her behavior, history, and what she has shared. How we accomplish it, how we build a full contextual experience and understanding of a customer, that requires a lot of technology. We need to have technology to know where someone is, their location. We need to know what device they're on. We need to track their behavior, their click behavior, and their repeat visit behavior. We need to know their transaction history. If they have long-standing customer, new customer. Are they a high-value customer or low-value customer? What are their preferences? What have they told us they want? What channel are they coming in on? Maybe they're in a store on their mobile device. And then what's their social profile? What else do we know about a customer? All of this helps build context so we have awareness so we can deliver a more personalized experience without getting creepy, by the way. If we get creepy, we've overstepped. So got to keep that in mind. But context is, in action, can be a very, very powerful notion. My colleague Carl Doty recently put this slide together. This is from Audi. Audi showed this at CES. Now, a normal Audi dashboard looks a little bit like this, but it's analog. And at CES, they showed this contextual dashboard where the driver had a tremendous amount more information at their fingertips, at their disposal. And the context of that experience was a very powerful way to say we can deliver a better car experience for you by taking advantage of the fact that we know where you are and the fact that we're connected digitally to the things you care about. So if context is the new remit, if you have to take advantage of context to personalize experience, how do you actually do it? So we've identified 4 steps to help you take advantage of context. And the first is to make sure you understand where context fits in on every step of the life cycle. So when you look at web content management, when you look at digital experience delivery, there are things that this platform does at every step. In the discovery step, for example, there's a lot of marketing content. There's a lot of user-generated content. We might have a landing page that has a notion of location that comes along with it because we know where somebody came in from. We can deliver a contextual experience because we've understood a tremendous amount about somebody when they come to us in this way. Similarly, in the explore phase, we're going to have product content. We're going to have faceted search, things that people have expressed interest in by their behavior, and we're going to put that in front of them in a contextual, personalized way. But also in buying. Maybe there's a little less context here, but there's a very powerful notion of engagement, live chat, for example. So context is important for that. For using a product, we won't want to put up all the how-to guides. We want to put up the how-to guide for the product they just bought. So make it contextual. Help somebody out by putting it in front of them before they even know they need it. And in the ask phase, a lot of customer service activities here. And in the engage phase, which is very often driven by loyalty and social interactions. A lot of context in each one of these, and then some which span every step in the life cycle. There is certainly content authoring and management. There's mobile, web, and app. There's digital asset management. And then importantly, there's analytics. So we know what's going on, and we can anticipate and start to custom build, tailor the experience. And then customer data and segmentation. We create groups of customers so we can target and help them more specifically and efficiently. So really at every step along the life cycle, we have the power of context and the role of technology in the delivery. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to implement a digital experience delivery platform. You're going to buy technology or rent technology hosted in the cloud in order to do this, to serve all of the touch points, the ones in green, the digital touch points and the offline touch points. You have the contextual delivery at the glass. What is somebody actually seeing? This is where personalization, rules engines, contextual experiences apply. Below that, we have in blue, marketing and commerce and service. These are the 3 big buckets of business functionality that we're delivering. And below that, we have resources like content, which powers everything, and the customer database, the audience database, and then other services that come in. On the left-hand side, we have analytics and insights. This is the engine, the powerhouse, the intelligence behind the experience delivery. And on the right-hand side, we've got extensions and APIs and custom code. There's a lot of custom code in delivering a great digital experience. No, it's not packaged out of the box. It has to be tied deeply into how your business operates. So a lot of custom code in what we call a low-code platform. This is the architecture of digital experience delivery. This is what you will assemble and build and operate across your company to serve customers at every step along their life cycle. Third, there's a lot more stakeholders, I promised you I'd talk about this, and more money to tap into. This is not an IT-led or just a marketing-led or just a business-led activity. It's all of the above. We recently surveyed 135 digital experience delivery decision makers, and we asked about what percentage of the budget do these groups own. And as you can see, it's about a third, a third, a third. And so for enterprises, the budget for digital experience delivery is shared amongst IT and marketing and business and even some other. So that means finding the stakeholders, finding the budgets, and working together across functional boundaries. And then lastly, and this is a multi-step process, you have to master contextual experience delivery. You're going to have to master a new approach. It starts by defining your strategy. You've got to determine what we call your brand's North Star. What does your brand represent? What are you trying to accomplish, both digitally and offline? We want to know when something is good to do or not good to do. I mentioned the creepiness factor. Well, maybe your brand is really built on trustworthy interactions, so the creepiness factor is even more important for your brand in that case. Or maybe it's a B2B brand, in which case it's not necessarily an individual personalization, but it's an account or business customer level personalization. You're going to identify your unique delivery, your interactions in support of that. So every step along the customer life cycle. You're going to reorganize your processes. There are two main things here. One is to reconceive the role of content, not just for pizzazz and marketing, but for utility, for value. How to use content to enrich somebody's experience, to deliver value. That's so important in mobile. If you take web and think small web is mobile, that's wrong. Mobile is about, I'm going to use it if it's valuable to me, if it's utility. So content becomes very important here. And then you're going to embrace iterative and agile approaches. You're going to test and learn. You're going to do A/B testing of content and of site experiences. You have to be agile and iterative and learn as you go to do that. Third, you're going to assemble your technology stack, either on your own, in the cloud, or perhaps a hybrid of the two. You're going to take inventory of what you have, and you're going to identify the gaps so that you can start to plug them in. And you've got to make some hard choices here on where's the customer data, where's the segmentation, where's the content repository, where's the analytics. You don't want to replicate it all over the place. You'd rather have a more consolidated set of building blocks that you can use for every single customer touch point, every step along that customer journey. And then lastly, you're going to accelerate your innovation with analytics. Analytics and insights becomes extremely important. My colleague Brian Hopkins and I are just finishing up a report called Insights Are the Currency of Digital Business. What we mean by that is that it's not just big data and an untested insight. It's actually insights in action. And so predictive analytics that you then test the insights to implement the insights digitally and offline, what we call the insights to execution process, becomes very, very important. You're going to repeat these 4 steps. You're going to reassess the brand, reorg your processes, assemble and build out your technology, and continue to find ways to innovate and accelerate using analytics. So those are the 4 major steps to delivering a great contextual customer experience. If you have any doubt that it's important, remember back to that stock performance, where high performers in Forrester's Customer Experience Index blew away the market, whereas low performers lagged the market tremendously, where context, personalization is a critical element of a great customer experience, and you deliver context digitally through everything you know about a customer, so you can provide exactly what he or she needs in that mobile moment or digital moment of engagement. So thank you very much. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Ted. And in the theme of what we're talking about today, there was some great content. Our next panelist is Martin Kiroff, Vice President of Product Management and Product Marketing for Telerik. Martin, you have the floor.
Thanks, Robert. And we'll spend a few minutes to delve a little bit deeper into the Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud. But before that, I just wanted to say that the Sitefinity 8.0 release adds a lot of value in a few different areas, in managing multiple websites, multiple languages, taxonomies and workflows, and also in Project Feather, which is our front-end development and design framework. But for the purposes of today's presentation, we'll focus on the Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud. And we have prepared a demo, and we'll get to it in just a few moments. But before that, I wanted to take this chance and introduce Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud, which we launched just a couple of days ago. And as Ted noted earlier, some of the challenges that digital marketing teams experience are on the organizational level. And studying those challenges over the past year was really the motivation behind building Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud. And some of the organizational challenges are that most digital marketing teams are really fragmented by design. So most organizations have a social media team, and regardless of how big or small it may be. So they're usually responsible about managing their social communities, retweeting, increasing the Facebook likes, etc. But the challenge is that they really operate within that world. They use social analytics, but their success is oftentimes being measured in number of tweets, retweets, and links back. Then there's the digital demand generation team, which is basically responsible for bringing in new leads, marketing qualified leads, increasing the score of different leads. So they're also looking at the customer journey from their own limited perspective. It's all about getting some more clicks and some more names. And oftentimes, there's really not that much visibility beyond that. And of course, you have the sales team as part of the customer journey. They work mostly in the CRM, they handle the sales activities, work on the opportunities. But again, oftentimes what happens before their first engagement and after they close the deal is kind of the context that's either irrelevant or not available to them. And finally, you have your content marketing team, which is responsible for producing all the great content that is being used throughout the customer journey from multiple different teams. But the challenge here is who is ultimately responsible for the customer journey. And we think that this is the responsibility of everyone in the organization, including technical support, who are not on this slide, but basically all the groups that interact with customers in whatever form or fashion. And in order for them to be effective, they need to get the full context of the customer journey, what happens before they engage with them, what happens after that, what happens in parallel across different channels. So providing that visibility, we think, is critical in order to bring all those teams together with one single goal, delivering an excellent customer journey. And there's also there are also some functional challenges related mostly to technology. And some of those include the fact that customer engagement data is oftentimes stored in multiple different and disconnected systems. Your CRM, marketing automation, web analytics, social analytics is stored in different forms and different formats. And that fact makes it very hard, or sometimes even impossible, to really derive the insights from this data. There's a lot of manual data crunching, getting things into one place, and any insight or success that you derive out of it is kind of a one-time win, because the next time you need some insight, you have to repeat the process all over again. And because of that, it's really time-consuming to create even a hypothesis on how you can improve or personalize the customer journey. Adapting the experience of your website visitors, of the people that receive your emails or engage with you in social channels, it's really hard because it takes a lot of manual preparation to understand how that experience can be improved. And finally, because of all of the above points, predicting marketing results, improving the effectiveness of your campaigns is really hard or inaccurate. Most marketing teams, if you ask them what would happen in terms of revenue if I increase your budget by 10%, they either don't have a good answer or they have one that's inaccurate. So it's really important to be able to measure the effectiveness of different campaigns. As the old saying goes, half of your money spent on marketing is wasted, but at this point, through technology, we should be able to know which half. And in terms of how we see digital marketing transforming, as each of those problems needs to find its solution. So customer engagement data needs to be aggregated into a standard format which allows it to be easily analyzed so that insights can be derived from that. I mean, the data is only as good as the insights you get out of it. So it's very important to have it in a structured format, everything that's meaningful across multiple different systems, so that you can really get some meaningful insights on how you can improve the lives of your customers. It's that insight, this knowledge about the customer journey would really help you create some hypotheses and really test them on what you can improve, which are the steps, which are the resources that work, what are the customer behavior patterns, what are some of the steps that are harder to make for your visitors. So that understanding is really the foundation of improving the customer experience. And finally, you should be able to measure what's happening. There's lots of campaigns that every digital marketing team runs at all times, but oftentimes their effectiveness is measured as far as clicks, new names acquired, and things like that. It's very important for everyone to be able to measure their work in terms of revenue, in terms of the greater digital marketing goals, whatever those may be, trial downloads, demo requests, sales inquiries. And it's important for everybody to see how their work contributes to the ultimate goals of the organization. And this is the inspiration, solving those problems is the inspiration we have building the Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud. It's a digital marketing platform for tracking and analyzing and shaping every step of the customer journey. And customer journey is a very key point here, because oftentimes marketing is too narrowly focused on acquiring leads or acquiring customers. We believe that it's as important, if not more important, to be able to retain your customers, upsell them, cross-sell them, but really keep their loyalty for life, because in terms of investment, it's much cheaper to retain a customer than to acquire a new one. And in terms of providing a visual representation of, on a high level, of how the Digital Experience Cloud works, is you typically have the different systems that are being used to engage with customers. You have your CRM, you have your website, multiple websites in many cases, different social media platforms, email or marketing automation solutions. Many organizations have mobile apps, and there's a lot of custom data sources, either from custom systems, legacy systems, Excel spreadsheets, from events, for example, of the scanners of people that visit your booth. So all sorts of data sources which are very relevant to the experience that your customers have with your brand. And in order to really assemble the puzzle, first you need to get all of the pieces into a format so that they can be tied together. So it's important to really standardize the format of this data, which would enable you to derive meaningful insights out of this data in a very effective way. So the way this works is all of those different data sources are connected to the Digital Experience Cloud, and the result is we apply different algorithms and machine learning in order to be able to create some sort of analysis on the customer journey. And this is all based on the goals that you have set in terms of digital marketing. And the goal can be anything with a digital footprint. It could be people filling out a form, an sales opportunity created in the CRM, basically anything that you can track in any of those systems. And then we are able to provide a single customer profile for every individual that really has all of their touch points in one single place, which is extremely useful for salespeople. And marketing, oftentimes marketing works with segments of people rather than individuals. So we run different algorithms to provide predictive analytics to show what performance can be expected in the short and near term, and most importantly, prescriptive analytics. What can we do to improve the experience of our customers and achieve the goals that we have set in marketing? And of course, there's the persona profiling and lead scoring, and the combination of all those different aspects provides a really effective way to analyze what's happening in the customer journey, what content is working, what are some of the buyer trends, and what are some of the things that you should pay closer attention to. And then after we have that insight sort of automated for us, we are then prepared to start optimizing the customer journey. And this is basically acting on the recommendations of the prescriptive analytics. They're all data-driven, so there's no my opinion versus your opinion versus somebody else's opinion. So it should be the single source of the truth. And then acting on those recommendations can take place over multiple different ways. One is real-time personalization of the website experience, basically recommend the best next step, which is individual to every visitor. You can also, if you have the contact of those people, you can send them emails, you can give them a phone call from your sales team and recommend whatever the system suggests that they should do. But ultimately, there are multiple ways to act on those recommendations and to really optimize the customer journey, really guide people towards the path that you want them to take. And finally, after you have seen the insights, after you have done a lot of work to optimize the customer journey, it's really important to have a good measurement of success, because sometimes you put a lot of effort only to find out that you've done a little bit of harm. So it's essential to be able to measure the improvement of conversion tracking, use different campaigns to see if you're making a positive difference or really standing in the way of your customers, and really using marketing attribution to understand what is the impact of content and different digital assets for your goals. I mean, what are the key steps or key assets that you have, because sometimes it will turn out that a resource that was not updated in a year and a half plays a critical role in your customer's journey. So this is one way to understand which are the steps and resources that matter and which are the ones that don't. And finally, this is a simple representation of how the Digital Experience Cloud can work with a web content management hand in hand. The Digital Experience Cloud is not a technology that is dependent on CMS. CMS is just one of the multiple data sources and one of the many ways to engage with customers. But ultimately, we look at this as your marketing brain and your marketing muscle, the CMS being one of the marketing muscles. The Digital Experience Cloud is really the system that provides customer journey analytics and predictive recommendations and measurements of what's working and what's not. But to really make a difference, you need to act on those insights. You really need to personalize the web and mobile experiences. You need to personalize the e-commerce experience, how you engage with people over email and social media, sometimes how you engage with them through sales channels. So this is how we see the two systems working together and complementing each other. And of course, this is within the context of a much larger ecosystems of multiple other systems of engagement.
Thanks, Martin.
And this concludes this part of the presentation. I think we're up for a demo now.
That's right, Martin. Now it's time to see the Digital Experience Cloud in action. And for that, we'll hand it over to the Digital Experience Cloud Product Marketing Manager, Svetlana Yankova.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks everybody for the great presentation so far. So let me show my screen real quick. You should be seeing a website called Quantum Computers. And let's run through a quick hypothetical situations here. Let's assume that you are responsible for running quantum computers, that it's a very big global enterprise with wide presence. So as a marketing professional, you're responsible and accountable for possibly a lot of different things. You know, you might be doing multiple global websites in different regions. You may be doing mobile. You're certainly doing things like social. You could be delivering mobile apps, doing really well on email, building a content strategy, doing a lot of blogging, all those normal things that we as digital marketers have become really good at doing at very great scale in the past few years. Now, the question is, how do you take all that? How do you basically engage with the customers in a better way? With the scale of how we're engaging, with the scale of number of things we're creating and the number of volume of customers that are coming in, we need to become a lot better at identifying what is it that we need to do for a digital experience to cater these conversations better. So as an example, you know, Quantum may have millions of people coming in through the various channels and browsing and interacting, but, you know, may have thousands of customers. So the question is, where are these thousands coming from? Is there pockets of other customers that they haven't looked at? What types are those customers? What type of assets are very good at converting them, and what type of assets are not that good at converting them? These are all questions that data-driven marketers ask themselves in order to provide a better experience. So in this example, you know, just a very typical situation, which could be somewhat different in your case, but in every case, it's a universal problem. You can see that Quantum may have different types of buyers. So here, you know, you can see there could be some kind of a consumer buyer, either a business professional or a gamer or something like that. And then they could have maybe some kind of an enterprise buyer. And they could be selling to CIOs, some kind of global solutions for, you know, bring your own device and different types of policies. And they want to focus the message for the particular buyer in the particular context, and for that purpose they need to learn more about their customers. So what is it that we do? Well, first of all, this is an experience managed by Sitefinity CMS. So we're not going to talk about this in great extent, but essentially Sitefinity CMS is the system that can provide delivery with great speed, great productivity, great agility, and they can manage all these things like landing pages, mobile apps, integrations, forms, digital assets, videos, and so on and so forth. Now, as you have all that presence, essentially what the Digital Experience Cloud does is it puts a giant brain behind the whole operation. In other words, it puts a learning mechanism that listens to everything and anything that customers do on various different channels. What type of pages they browse, what type of information they tell us about themselves, how they interact with email, how they download, do they download files, do they watch videos, do they share on social media, and so on and so forth. And it uses that information and any other information source that you could have in order to start answering more sophisticated, more complex marketing questions, and really tries to connect this data, this underlying data, and use that as a vessel to connect any type of marketing activity that can happen in the digital or non-digital world. You may be throwing an event somewhere, and connect that to actual business results. Make that connection, optimize that connection, optimize the actual revenue that comes through the bottom line. So the way it does that is through this idea that, as I said, there's a giant brain called the Digital Experience Cloud, a marketing analytics system that listens to all that data and starts answering complex questions in a very simple way. And so here, even in the dashboard, you will see a basic example and an idea of some of the questions that it answers for me. Things like, where am I doing best in converting customers? Which assets in marketing campaigns work and which don't? Where am I able to get more bang for my buck in different terms? How do I increase my conversions? What tactics and strategies can I use to personalize, contextualize in order to increase my conversion? Who is my buyer? What are the people currently browsing my website? What about in the past month? What about in the past 6 months? Have I been successful in attracting more of the CIO type? Or is the business user / consumer / person who buys only the $300 laptop the predominant buyer? How is this balance going on? You know, how is my funnel looking like? And questions like that. So these are all important questions that a smart enough system can answer on top of data if it has the right predictive analytics, algorithm systems, and things like that. And so I want to go by them one by one. So first of all, this idea that you are really good at delivering at great scale on every different channel means that you need to become really good at listening at a great scale. And so in other words, if customer X browses a mobile app, then they browse the website, then they browse a regional website, and then they go to another blog, then they talk to a salesperson, then they go to an event, you need to have a consolidated consolidated way to learning and combining all that for customers. And very special importance here is paid to anonymous interactions. Almost every business transaction today starts with someone anonymously researching someone else or some other business. So you need to become better at listening the anonymous interactions and then finding out ways to figure out how to help a user identify themselves, and once they do, to sort of bring those anonymous interactions into their profile and learn what they have been browsing anonymously and non-anonymously as well. And so the Digital Experience Cloud does all these things. It has a very good system called the Customer Journey Database, where you basically store all the customer journeys across every single touch point. And these touch points can be website, these touch points can be CRM, these touch points can be email, and things like that. Based on these touch points, you get to start asking and answering those questions. And so a few that I wanted to go through today, personas is a feature that answers a very important question and has a few very useful practical applications. Persona basically allows you to define buyer types. Things like, you know, consumers, CIOs, IT buyers, developers, gamers, etc. You know, whatever is relevant for your business, and then set up scoring rules, set up different ways where different interactions assign one person more towards one persona than towards another. So if they download this file, then maybe they're likely a developer. But if they subscribe to this forum thread, then they're maybe likely to be a business user, and so on and so forth. So you get to build all these models, and then you classify users. Once again, anonymous users as well as known ones. And you classify them, and you say, okay, well, this person right here is actually, this person right here does not have scoring yet, but this person right here is likely to be a business user. Why? Well, they looked at our Office suite, they looked at it in the shop, they looked at a topic of what notebook should I buy, and they subscribed to a different forum thread that really indicates that they are a business user. So once you have this information together, you can say, okay, this person, I have pretty high certainty that they are a business user. So once you do that, very important applications of this is you can learn to target content. So you can directly hook this into Sitefinity personalization, and within the marketing feature, start really targeting content. So within a click or two or three, you can learn what type of persona they belong to, and then once you do, you can set this as a characteristics and say, okay, well, if a person from DC is a business user, and I can call this business users, then let them see a personalized version of the experience, and we can pick up on their context, and we can pick up on their context and start catering targeted content. I will go back to the Digital Experience Cloud because I have a few more things to cover here. We're doing a brief intro and overview to some of the key and core capabilities. One of the other thing, and essentially one of my favorite features so far, is the ability to answer a very important question, which is, how are the marketing activities that I'm working on? How are they contributing to the bottom line? So if I spend, you know, endless amounts of hours and I subcontracted some money to build this great video, how is this working to gain enterprise clients for me? How is this working towards my goal of becoming better at gaining enterprise clients? And we can see here that out of the people who watched the video, we've gained 58 enterprise clients in this example. However, as another metric indicates, those 58 were great. You know, it's good that we have them, but our attribution says that they're about half as likely to convert if they watch the video than the average. So this means not good news. This is not really working in terms of converting people to become enterprise customers. Essentially, this is the essence of marketing attribution, answering this question. You configure exactly two things. What are the things that you've invested in? What are the assets, campaigns, touchpoints, events, anything like that that you've put some time and effort in? What has your marketing team worked on? And what are your goals? What are those KPIs that you're trying? Do you want people to click on the Contact Us button? Do you want a quote request? Do you want to gain more enterprise clients? Do you want to get more purchases? And things like that. And so you're able to set these up in the Digital Experience Cloud. And in fact, the Digital Experience Cloud comes with a lot of prepackaged integrations to systems like Salesforce, Dynamics, and even SQL databases that can be used in order to integrate that data and set these high-level goals so that you're able to match sort of the beginning of the journey with the end of the journey, and match how things in the beginning influence what happens at the end, which is extremely, extremely powerful for us because it helps us learn what to invest in and what not to invest in. So if I click in here and I look towards my goal, I look towards my destination, if you will, then I can see that the system has basically looked at every single interaction, every single customer, every single contact, and has determined that 0.6 something is my conversion rate for enterprise clients. And so this means we have about 114 of those. And not only that, but it has determined what touch points are attributing to this and what touch points are not. So in this example, we can see that this particular white paper, 7 reasons to choose Quantum, while it may have not converted a heck of a lot of contacts, it's only 3, you can see that its attribution, or in other words, how many times is the conversion rate higher than the average of all contacts, so that 0.6 we talked about, this percentage is much higher, which means essentially if we do a better job at promoting this white paper, we may get this 3 to become 10 or 20 or 40 or 50, which is all good news for us, and it's a good insight to have. While at the same time looking at this B2B event, and to which we may have thrown $100,000 into, and seeing that it in fact has not done a tremendous job of converting, well, maybe next year we don't go to this event or something like that. So attribution, again, really, it's really fascinating and great how easy it is to set up. On Sitefinity.com, we're tracking things like A/B tests and personalized versions of pages to see what their attribution is, and some amazing insights that are coming out of that. And so, as someone who has worked with the feature for a while, I can say that it's a great feature to have whenever you have the proper goals set up, and you've integrated the right touch points to set that up. And so I wanted to spend the next couple of minutes to talk about recommendations. Recommendations are essentially a step further. So the attribution is a look into the past. What have I done in the past that has contributed to the bottom line, has contributed to revenue, to opportunities, to whatever my goals are. Recommendation, on the other hand, are a look towards the future. So recommendations answer the questions, what can I do in the future to get a big increase in my goals, and in fact, you know, the biggest possible increase that an algorithm can think of. And so if you remember, we had about 114 enterprise opportunities in our example. Well, this recommendation is telling us that we can get up to 88 if we promote a certain resource to a certain segment of people. Maybe that resource is something that is working really well. Or we can get up to 18 more if we promote this 7 Reasons to Choose Quantum white paper that was doing so well in attribution, and we promote it to a different segment of people. Now, the way this works is sort of like a navigation system. Think of it as a system that knows your current state, it knows your conversion rate, it knows your conversions, it knows what places have people visited and not visited, and you set your destination. In this case, you know, more enterprise clients. Who doesn't want those? And once you set your destination, it runs a predictive algorithm that comes up with these predictions. That basically says, well, if people who have seen A, B, and C, if they happen to see resource D, they can get a much bigger conversion rate. This is what the predictive algorithm does. And it does this for basically any combination of A, B, and C, any type of interaction, whether it's visiting a page, visiting a financial report, watching a video, not receiving a certain asset, or anything like that. And based on that, it determines a dynamic segment, and then it resurfaces as a recommendation those segments that you can target with a particular resource that can give you the highest amount of gain. And you can act upon this insight, and there's some great insights that show up from those. And you can say, okay, I wanna define a campaign, I wanna act upon this, and you can essentially start tracking and seeing how this campaign is doing a better job at helping people engage and helping keep people convert. In fact, we have about 3 campaigns here defined already, so let me show you some end results that have been drawn. As an example here, we've identified and acted on the same recommendation that we're looking in before, and you can see here engagement rate increasing. In other words, more people reading the white paper, and as a result of that, bigger increase in conversion rate, bigger increase in conversions, bigger increase in engagement rate, and various other things like that. So this naturally ties into personalization, because if you think about it, it's a very natural personalization strategy. You may have 20,000 pages and 40 different segments and 50 different buyers that you want to target, but if you really want to prioritize what you personalize first, you don't want to manage 10,000 versions of your websites, but you do want to have certain type of personalization, and this is exactly the type of personalization you need to have. Personalization towards what could bring you the highest net gain, and you target one segment, and then you target another, and then you target another, and then you target another, until this whole thing converges into personalized conversations that are optimized for biggest conversion rates and for biggest influence on the metrics that matter. In this case, you know, things like enterprise opportunities. So I'm going to leave time for us to take a few questions towards the end, but first, a very quick announcement. Some of you may know the Telerik annual conference, the conference dedicated towards helping customers and partners have great success and innovation with Telerik products, very specifically Sitefinity, is going to be hosted May 4th and 5th, and workshops on May 3rd in Boston. And for attending today, you also get a coupon code if you want to register for that conference. There's going to be a lot of good content, specifically technical content, on questions of, you know, how do I integrate Digital Experience Cloud with a custom system? How do I extend personalization? How do I build mobile apps? And various other questions like that around Sitefinity. So if you are interested, you can go on to teleriknext.com and use this coupon code to register.